And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I'm your host, Coach Donnie Hess, here back with another waffle wrap up. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're flying out to Western Australia to talk everything that is waffle and waffle W. And unfortunately, Mr. Paul Persett cannot join us today. He had something come up that was just the littlest bit more important. So, Paul, we will miss you this round, but hopefully we will see you again for the next episode. Please take care, sir, with the situation that you're involving. So, joining me again, coming back for his first episode of review this year, Mr. Rick Gauchi of Waffle Footy Facts. Rick, great to see you, sir.
How you going, Donny? Yeah, good to be back on after missing the last call. But yeah, it's an interesting start to the season in the men's waffle, and the continuation of the women's waffle has been pretty exciting as well, with some interesting results that we'll have a look at. But yeah, great to be back on and having a chat about the waffle footy for you and your fans.
Well, as soon as I think I've got everything figured out, these damn things just throw curveballs at me. But you want to know what? I absolutely love it because it keeps it entertaining. It doesn't get stale. So really quickly, sir, before we dive into the nuts and bolts of each of these, just your quick thoughts over the last basically 4 rounds of footy for each of the men's and the women's competition.
Yeah, so the women's competition is kicking on. I think you got up to round six with Paul in their last women's review, and there's been a few interesting results there. East Perth has been actually on the winners list. They've got through that first season last year without a win and been quite well beaten most of the times, and they started the season similar here, and a couple of wins now for them, which is great to see. Although one of them was against Peel, who pretty much an East Perth shoes from last year. They're not performing very well, but good on the Royals girls. It's great to see the new clubs coming on board and getting some wins. It's only going to do wonders for the players in the team and give them some confidence going forward. So it's been great to see. The ladder is very close. It looks at this stage like it may be a 5-horse race for the finals in the women's league. Obviously, they have a top four. Subiaco and Swans, I think, meet up next round, which is a massive game for the Lions. I think if they lose that, you can probably count them out. But so hopefully for the competition's sake, that Subi can get a win to stay alive there. Obviously, as everyone knows by now, I'm a Swannies man, so I'm hoping that doesn't happen. But for the league's perspective, putting my waffle hat on, I think it'll be great if Subi do get over the line and make it interesting there as well.
Mhm.
I'm over in the men's. The season's kicked off. We've probably got one of the most even seasons we've had on record. We sort of expected it when we talked before the season. It was very difficult to choose the top four or the top five and premiers and stuff like that. And I think the three of us all had different opinions in who's going to make the finals. And it's sort of shaping up that way at the moment, with probably no real clear 100% favourite after the first 6 rounds or 5 rounds of football, and they've all played 4 games each. Even the Eagles have had a win. Great to see, with a massive upset against East Fremantle.
Mhm.
But we had a situation where it's I've just got to quickly look at my stat that I had available here. After the first 3 rounds, it's the first time since 1992 where there's been no undefeated team after 3 games. So
Mhm.
you look at the evenness of the competition. Every team's had at least one win. Every team's had one loss at least. So a good couple of close games as well in there as well, with again my team being on the wrong side of a couple, which I'm sure we'll discuss through the call. But it's still looking pretty exciting at the moment. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's been fascinating. I like I said, sometimes it's hard for me to catch these games live because they're starting at 1 or 2 in the morning. So I'm checking the scores. I'm watching the highlights when I can, and it's like I said, as soon as I think I've got it figured out, I'm going, okay, I've got this team figured out. Boom, a result happens that totally throws me off. But we'll break each of these down. We'll start in the women's competition, round six, since there was no real round five because that was the week that the men got started, which was the week that we last came off of. So we'll go to round six, starting off at Pennet Stadium as the clash between two undefeated teams leads finally for a team to drop as Claremont knock off West Perth 94 to 90, 58-18. If I look 9-4, read the scores right, coach. Read the scores right. South Fremantle get a win over East Perth, continuing the losing streak for East Perth 54-19. East Fremantle with an absolute hiding over a Peel team that has just not found any luck this season, 66-6. And Swan Districts get a nice little win over Subiaco 52-34 through round six. And there weren't a lot of close games in this one, But the one thing that I'm noticing is that, as you kind of said, that Subiaco Swans game, Swans is a team that if they kick straight, they can win games. If they get a little leery, that's what's burned them a couple of times this year. They were 8-4 in this game, and I think one of the big reasons why they knocked off the Lions in this one.
Yeah, definitely. Straight kicking is good football. Bad kicking is bad football, and the results speak for themselves. You can see that Swans and Subi game you talked about. Swans good kicking in that game. Subi kicked 4 goals 10. So 14 scoring shots to 12. You have more scoring shots, and you lose the game by 3 goals. It makes a big difference, and we'll see a couple of rounds later when Swans had a very inaccurate game against West Perth in a rather big loss. Yeah, and even I think the South Fremantle score there, they kicked 7-12 against East Perth. They kicked 3 goals 1. Again, a percentage would have been much greater if South Fremantle had a kick straight again, and that could well come down to percentage for their spot in the finals. So
Mhm.
they could probably have missed a good opportunity there, the Bulldogs girls in that game.
Yeah, definitely, definitely for sure. Again, the scores got a little lopsided in that round, and they start to kind of slowly become a little more competitive as we go on because we'll move over to round seven. Unfortunately, West Perth one loss, doubles to two as East Fremantle beat them 45-9. East Perth get off the schneid, as we kind of said. East Perth get their first win in club history, knocking off Peel 35-22. I have to say, a couple of the East Perth fans that I know of, I had to send them a message and ask them how awesome was it for the club to finally get a win. So happy for the East Perth girls. Finally, they have their first win on the board. A surprisingly close game as Claremont stay close with Subi. 39-29, some wayward kicking there. Probably the reason that that game was a little bit closer than it was. And Swan Districts, unfortunately, not the greatest game. 5-2 accurate, but unfortunately, South Fremantle just a little bit better, kicking 46 points to 32, knocking off the Black Ducks. I mean, I have to say it. I had a grin a mile wide as I saw when East Perth played Peel, knowing this was the potential, and for them to get a win. I'm so happy for the East Perth coaching staff and for those young ladies because finally they get to sing the song for once.
Yes, and I bet it was a pretty good rendition of the song as well. I did see some Facebook video of the team at the end of the game jumping up and down and being pretty excited. And yeah, and you've got to you got to smile and you've got to be happy for them. You sort of hope that that sort of Peel can turn around their season as well. But they've had a bit of success in the women's league over the time. So East Perth as a new club, and yeah, it was, as we said earlier, it was great to see. Well done to the Royals girls.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. We'll move over to round eight, and unfortunately, that the happiness of the win falls really short as the next round, East Fremantle bring them back to reality with a 61-7 win over East Perth. West Perth, as you kind of said, that game that you were previewing, 74-17 as Swans kick 111 in this game, unfortunately. Subiaco continued to play in close games as South Fremantle edged them by 16 to 48-32, and Claremont absolutely hiding Peel Thunder 66-2. I mean, if you look at it, the closest score is probably the most interesting one. It seems like Subi is always playing in close games. The South Fremantle get the win only by 16, but Subi's got to be kicking themselves. 4-8 scoreline. A couple of those goals go through, and this is a much different game.
Yep, again, it's pretty much a common theme, I think. In the women's scores, a lot of the kicking is inaccurate. Obviously, they don't quite have the skills the men do, and then the accuracy of the kicking for goal is probably something that they need to continue to work on. But I think looking at the Swans West Perth game, there's 12 and 24 scoring shots. There's 34 scoring shots. That's a massive amount in women's football of scoring shots. And I don't keep stats on the women's game at all. But I dare say that would probably be the most number of scoring shots in any game in the 6 years of the WAFL women's history. With both sides getting a lot of opportunities for goals. So that must have been a good quality game. I didn't catch any of that, but other results there probably went to script. And Subiaco, they're not losing their games by big margins. You mentioned they've only lost that game by a couple of goals. They lost to Swans by a couple of goals earlier as well. So maybe they're not just quite there. And that's probably what's restricting them. And they've only had the 2 wins over the bottom 2 sides for this season so far. But they've
Mhm.
been very competitive in their other games.
Yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. And we'll go to round nine, which I gotta say, the first two games absolutely floored me because
Mm.
East Perth beat South Fremantle. Like I will repeat it again. East Perth, the team that has only won one game in its entire existence, knock off a team that I honestly thought was a very heavy chance of being in the conk for not only the finals, but also for premiership. And East Perth beats them 24-20. Congratulations to the Royals on that one. But then to add to my shock, and a grin is going to come over my co-host face as Swan Districts end the undefeated streak of Claremont 47-22 at Steel Blue Oval. I had to chuckle and smile. I have to say this, Rick. I almost messaged you, been like, oh my gosh, was not expecting that. Not expecting that at all. Claremont has been the class of this competition. And for them to drop a game to Swans, and again, I mean, no disrespect to Swans, this was not something I was expecting. This was a fantastic result, not only for the competition, but for Swans in their chance to make finals again this year. And unfortunately, the other two games kind of go to what we would expect as East Fremantle beats Subiaco 46-30. Again, another 16-point defeat by
Yep.
Subiaco. And West Perth again smashing Peel Thunder 91-20. As the Swans
Yep.
man that you are, how awesome is this for the lady Swans to get a big win over the perennial favorite Tigers?
Yeah, pretty huge. Claremont have been the pinnacle for the last couple of seasons and barely been beaten. So for the Swans girls to get up and win that was awesome. Again, I sort of caught the score on Facebook and saw some of the images, and again the girls singing the songs, and again that was pretty well sung. That and I sort of sang along with them as well as when I watched the video. So it was an awesome win for the girls, and hopefully that is a spur for the rest of the season, and they can they're in fourth place at the moment, I think, or fifth maybe.
Fifth,
But
yep.
hopefully, yeah,
Percentage is what's got them right now.
percentage out. That's right. Yeah. So hopefully that can push them up into the four and give them an opportunity to push for a grand final spot or a final spot. It's great to see. I'm sure Claremont will bounce back over the coming weeks, and I the next opponents they come up with are going to have to be on their game, because I think the Tigers will be itching to get back on the winners list. But I think the story again, as you mentioned there, that round was East Perth going back to back with a second win in a row, this time over the South Fremantle team, which I think we both selected as our premiership teams going into the season. So from memory, so amazing effort for the East Perth girls, and hopefully they can keep that going. For the rest of the season. And the other results, as we said, Subi, another respectable, as you call it, loss for them by a couple of goals. They're there and thereabouts, Subi, so they're not far away.
Yeah, you look at their 2-6 record and you almost go, if just some kicking straight and just a few changes, this could be a complete flip of their
Yep.
fortune this year. But again, sometimes that's just not the way the footy bounces, unfortunately. So that is going to do it for the 4 rounds of the women's competition that have played. Let's jump over to the men's. We jump all the way back to round two because we did actually get round one in due to some scheduling issues. So we jump all the way back to round two, and we start off South Fremantle with an absolute smashing over West Coast, 143-55. Again, this is before some of the injury returns for the Eagles. East Fremantle with an absolute hiding over Claremont, 135-45. That one, I must say, did shock me a little bit. East Perth beating Swan Districts 119-82. West Perth smashing Perth 116-68. And Peel giving a run to Subi, but Subi just too strong in the end, 92-66. I mean, the theme in this one is that if Subi could just get 8 more points, every single winner chalk up 100 points.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, some big results there. The East Fremantle Claremont game was probably the shock of the round. So many people selected would have picked Claremont to be a finals contender. I'll put my hand up and say I wasn't one of them. I did say they were going to drop out, and I took a bit of a beating for that through social media with a couple of my comments from the pre-season. But they're currently in ninth place, so I'm comfortable with that at the moment. But it's a shock. Claremont don't get beaten by big margins when they lose, and two of their other losses this season have been by under a goal. So they're usually very competitive. That was a shock result, and East Fremantle came to play. They obviously were started at -4, so that put them back to 0 for the season to get them back to even ledger. and for Claremont, that was their biggest defeat since, I think it was around about 2009, 2008. So it's been a while since Claremont have had a defeat of that size. I'm just trying to find my notes for that. I can't quite find it. I think it's around about 10 years at least since Claremont have beaten by that much. The East Perth Swans game was really competitive up to probably the 20-minute mark of the third quarter. Swans' third quarter was they dominated the play, kicked 6 points. East Perth kicked 2 goals in the last 5 minutes of the third quarter, and then the game was all over. They Swans didn't fire a shot in the last quarter. Perth were very disappointing in their big loss to West Perth after their first up performance against Subi. That was a bit of disappointment there, but they did bounce back to win another game against Swans. I think the following week, and yeah, Subi and Peel. That's Peel's first and only loss so far of the season, so that was a good win for Peel. For Subi in that game. But again, Peel kicking more points and goals, and Subi more goals and points. Again, that inaccurate kicking could have cost the Thunder in that game.
Yeah, definitely for sure. But and the funny thing is, we go from round two, where we have some hidings and not so close, to round three. That literally, this is bonkers. 4-point win, 3-point win, 1-point win, and then a couple, and then 2 games that were a little bit over that. But another cracking game in round three is we see Peel beat East Perth 69-53. Subiaco beat West Perth by 4, 69-65. South Fremantle just edged Claremont 70-69. Perth beats Swan Districts by 3, 66-63. And West Coast get off the schneid. As we said, their one and only win of the season, but who they beat is the shocker of all, as East Fremantle fall to the West Coast Eagles 95-91. This, I mean, how good is this? I mean, 4 points, 1 point, 3 points, 4 points. This is the type of footy as a WAFL supporter you have to love. 4 fracking games, all under a goal. One outlier between Peel and East Perth in the grand final rematch, but East Perth and Peel was a heck of a game of football, even though it was the score that it was. This is awesome. I love seeing games where you have multiple close games at the end of the round.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, just it's just some stats that I can read that I posted on my socials, just for the people who like some numbers and stuff around the closeness of this round of football. The total margin of 28 points across the five games was the lowest any time we've had 5 games in a round of fixtures. So that's only the fourth season that we've had 5 games, but it's the lowest by quite a big margin. So 50 points was the smallest previously. So 28-point margin between 5 games is amazing. The average margin of 5.6 is the 15th lowest in any round of fixtures, so over 130 years of football in the WAFL. And it's the first time ever that 4 games in a round have been decided by less than a goal. So it was an amazing round of fixtures. That the fact that there was 4 games decided by less than a kick, it was really highlighted the evenness of the competition. Obviously, the surprise one there was the Eagles defeating East Fremantle, and they could have won by a lot more as well, 30 scoring shots to 21 in that game. So the Eagles dominated that match. The other games, Subi and West Perth historically play close matches. South Fremantle and Claremont the same. Perth and Swans, despite Swans probably winning, I think, 6 or 7 games in a row against Perth before this game, they haven't been big margins. They've been relatively close. Including a game after the siren last year that Swans won. So amazing round of fixtures, and that augurs well for the rest of the season. The next two weeks we didn't have as many close games, but it's great to see the evenness of the competition shining by those close results. It was really good to see.
Yeah, I remember seeing the scores after the weekend. It went, wow, that's awesome to see that. And it's fantastic. And to see some of the teams that I think last year had some issues, like I said, West Coast, I think as frustrating as they are, you're kind of there's a little bit of you that's happy that they got off the schneid, that they aren't like 14 games into the season and still haven't won a game. So it's nice. You just don't want them to beat you. Your team is the biggest thing on that one. So we'll jump to round 4, and this starts kind of the split round. So unfortunately, the next 2 rounds don't have as many games. So round 4 only had 2, as we had as I kind of called it in the Sandville, and I'll say it here, is the Derby or the Derby or Derby Light. I can't remember how they want it pronounced. My apologies if anybody's
Derby in
offended.
WA, Derby everywhere else. There
Okay.
you
The
go.
Derby Light is Peel Thunder beat the West Coast Eagles 123-55, and Claremont beat Subiaco by a score of 78-57. Again, only two games in round four. The other six teams having a seat on the sidelines for this one. I mean, Optus Stadium hosted Peel Thunder West Coast. And again, Peel is just they're very, very good. Despite Fremantle's injuries, Peel has still been able to play really, really well. They haven't been hurt by the injuries that the big club has had.
Yeah, the Thunder have got some really good depth of their local players, and that's the difference between the alignment arrangement that they have and the West Coast Reserves team. And it showed in this game. You know, West Coast, I hate to say it, but went back to normality, get it with
Hmm.
a bit of a hiding, unfortunately. I didn't mention, but their win in the last week broke the longest winless streak in WAFL history of 28 games. That no team have played as many games without winning before the Eagles got that win, which was great. But going back to another 70-point loss for the Eagles, so not a good sign there after their win the previous week. Hopefully they can bounce back, but they've got a big task this week against East Perth. But yeah, Claremont Subi game. Claremont bounced back, so that was a great win by the Tigers to get them their first win on the board after losing their first three games. So great win there for them over Subiaco. They held on. Subi were coming in the last quarter. Claremont held on and managed to walk away with a victory by 21 points. So Claremont getting back on the board. So, you know, again, another team with a win, which meant every team at that stage almost every team had a win on the board. Each Fremantle had a win, but was still on 0 premiership points. So it's a bit of a technical one there. But it's great to see every team that then had a win after 4 rounds of fixtures. And yeah, it was a short round of fixtures. And the rest of the teams, as you mentioned, played the following week.
And that we'll go straight to it. Great transition is round five. The round just finished. This last round sees East Perth knock off Perth 91-71. West Perth fall to South Fremantle 71-53. And unfortunately, East Fremantle breaking the Swans' hearts again with a 76-74 win. And if I remember correctly, this was another after the siren heartbreak for the Swans.
Don't want to talk about that at all, mate. That didn't happen. It was a bad dream, and I don't want to know anything about it.
I'm
No,
sorry. I'm
seriously.
sorry.
Yeah, that's all right, mate. It happens. It happens. Again, I can rattle off some stats around Swans close games in a minute as well for you, just to see, you know, the anguish as a black and white supporter we've had to deal with over the last couple of years. But looking at the results there, so East Perth having a pretty comfortable win, as you said, over Perth. Perth has really started to be hit with injuries. They had some
Mhm.
really good recruits in the off season. Charlie Constable, who's been on fire for the first few weeks, averaging over 30 disposals. He went down very early with a ankle, I think, syndesmosis injury, so he'll be out for a little while. Sam Simpson, another star recruit with a Geelong background, he was injured, didn't play this game, I think, with a hamstring. And then they lost Aaron Clark, who was one of their VFL recruits as well, who's been a key target up front for the Demons. So it's a bit of a shame. You know, everyone's, I think, probably got a soft spot for Perth since it's been so long since they've been successful. And they were looking the goods after their first, being 2-1 after their first couple of games. Unfortunately, this loss and those injuries, it may derail their season, but let's hope it doesn't. Their reserves are undefeated, 4-0, so they do look like they have a bit of depth. So hopefully they've got some depth to cover those injuries, and the players coming in can keep their performances up. South Fremantle continue their record at Joondalup. They're the most successful team at Joondalup, even won more a higher percentage of games at the venue than West Perth, who play out the ground. So South Fremantle, great win there as well. Probably didn't expect that win the way probably West Perth have been playing, but they've been a little bit up and down, I think. And then and again Swans losing after the siren. So just again, I'll throw out some stats obviously for you and for the listeners. So 25 of the Swans' last 55 games have been decided by under 10 points. So they have won some. They've also lost a few. 4 of the last 16 games, so that's a quarter of the last 16 games, have been decided after the siren. So, you know, I can probably remember 2 in my lifetime watching Swans after the siren games, and that's since 1980. And we've had 4 in the last 16 games decided after the siren with 2 wins and 2 losses. Um, of the last 50 games decided by less than a goal throughout the whole competition, Swans have played in 17 of those games, and the next most is 11, and we have a 7-10 record. So it's it's a very frustrating time as being a Swan supporter. You're not comfortable, even 4 goals in front at the start of that final quarter. I said to my dad and another supporter who was next to me, I'm still not confident we're going to win. 10 minutes to go, 17-minute mark of the third final quarter. We're still four goals in front, and we still managed to lose. So, hopefully they do get some learnings. But East Fremantle were playing for their lives, and you could tell in that last 10 minutes they put their big guns in the middle. Players like Jansen, Erdley, young Teakle, who was I don't know why he didn't stay on the Port Adelaide list. I'm not sure why they haven't kept him on, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets picked up in the mid-season draft again. He was brilliant, and the goal after the siren from just under 50 metres was a great kick by young Jackson McDonald and East Fremantle. Yeah, they went off. They celebrated a great victory, and as a football fan, it was amazing, amazing result at the end of the way they got over the line. Hard to say from me, but it was a great game of football in the end, and one team had to win, unfortunately, at that stage, and it was the
Yeah.
wrong one. No.
I don't begrudge you. Like I said, it's one of those as a footy fan, it's absolutely scintillating. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. As a supporter of the team that gets burned by it, you're like you're grumbling in your seat because it's one of those that unfortunately you're plagued with them, unfortunately, and your
That's it.
ticker eventually is going to wear out because of all of these stressful close games. I trust me, unfortunately it happens way too much sometimes, and I know
Yeah, well, my
exactly
dad's
how you feel.
77, Donny, and he's sitting there looking at his Apple Watch and his heart rate going up to, and I'm
200
hoping,
beats
is
a
he still
minute.
breathing? There? Still breathing? There? So yeah, it's not fun, that's for sure. But
uh
anyway, it
but it's
happens.
hey,
It's football. We love it.
it's the life of a footy supporter. I think we've
Yeah,
all probably had that time when a game has got your heart going 1,000 miles an hour because you're so nervous, you have no idea how it's going to go. So I don't begrudge it. In fact, it's one of the things that even over here, I still get super nervous in some of these games, and like I'm sitting there, like my pillow is getting a workout because I'm squeezing it so hard because I'm so nervous because I'm not sure how the team will go. So totally get it on that one. So we'll jump to the burning questions. I've had a month of footy to dive into, and I've kind of pulled out some things that I just want to have a quick discussion with you on. And we'll start off with what I think is the cool story of the women's, and that is East Perth. They have not only one win, but now 2 wins. So for me, I think this is a sign that the waffle is now getting even more competitive. Unfortunately, Peel has kind of taken East Perth's spot, so there's kind of the give and take a little bit. But for me, I ask you this: do you think this is a good sign for the overall competitiveness of the waffle women's competition?
Oh, definitely. Without doubt, if different teams are winning, in any sport, any sport doesn't necessarily have to be football and even at the waffle level, but a team who's, not doing very well, for whatever reason, it's great to see that they put up some wins. And, odds on that East Perth's going to get 3 wins because they play Peel the next game, so they could have 3 wins in 4 games. So that'd be an amazing thing for East Perth to see. And, the whole competition in the waffle women's is pretty tight. You look at the top 5, pretty tight. As we mentioned earlier, Subi have got a big game against Swans this week. If Subi win, East Perth win, and South Fremantle don't win this week, all those teams are a game out the
Mhm,
finals. So East Perth would amazingly be 1 game out of the finals with a percentage below 50. But
mhm.
you can only win who you can play against. So no, it's a great story, and hopefully, well, let's hope Peel can bounce back and defeat East Perth because it'd be great to see that their team win. They're struggling to get points on the board, 95 points in 8 games for the Thunder Girls. So there's not a lot of scoring going on down there at Peel Thunder. So hopefully they can improve that. Maybe get some more players in off season and improve because again, a couple of years ago they were very strong in the women's football. So it hasn't been that long ago since they were playing finals and grand finals. So I'm
Yeah,
sure they'll be back.
I'm 100% with you. It's kind of like when I chat with my sample printing in North Adelaide is just like Peel this year that they've lost every game. They've been a little bit more competitive than Peel is, but it's one of those that you almost kind of go, they're gonna nip somebody. You just have a feeling. I'm hoping that Peel does, just so then everybody has a win because you never like seeing somebody go through an entire season without being able to sing
Yeah.
the song once. So I'm gonna put a grin on your face with this next question. We are gonna go a little Swans here. Swans pulled
Mhm.
off the huge upset of Claremont this particular round, ending their unbeaten streak that they've had for almost 2 seasons in their home and away. Besides their grand final loss,
Yeah.
they haven't lost a game in home and away in almost 2 seasons. So this is a huge win. Is this the thing that helps push the Black Ducks into the finals this year? Um, when it comes to the Waffle W team.
Yeah, well, yeah, let's hope so, from my point of view, obviously. But, sometimes teams can get a big win and they let themselves down the following week. So I think the
Mhm.
next game the Swans girls play will probably determine, obviously where they end up for the season. They play Subi, we mentioned, who are 2 games behind. Subi's been competitive in pretty much all their games, as we've seen, looking at the scores. Massive, massive, massive game for both of those clubs. So if Swans win that, then yeah, by all means they've got a great opportunity to get into the finals. Um, if they don't win, and obviously and South Fremantle do get a victory in their next game, that's going to open up a bit of a gap there in the ladder and put them under pressure. So yeah, it's only going to give the girls confidence. And again, hopefully they can build from that and pull a good couple of wins in the next few games to put the pressure on the teams that are currently in the top four. I still think there is a bit of a gap looking at the scores, probably between the top three sides, and I think East
Mhm.
Fremantle probably the form side at the moment with their recent results. So whether if they do make the finals, whether they're making up the numbers, I'm not sure. But yeah, obviously it'd be good to see. But again for the league, it's a great thing that it's pretty even, and there's at the moment 5 teams in it, and if you add Subiaco with the next game, they potentially could still be in it, and they've got a very healthy percentage, actually higher than Swans percentage as well. So
Mhm.
percentage could come down to determining who makes the four or that fourth spot.
Yeah, you hate to say it, but even a game this early and only in round 11, and they go through to round 16. This could be
Yep,
an eliminator. If Subi
yep,
drops this one and Swans wins this, I mean, it becomes a 5 team race for 4 spots. And even
yeah, I
still, there
think
still would be still a lot of intrigue between South Fremantle. West Perth is not fully out of it either. They'll still have a couple of tough games. They've got some tough games coming up too. So I'm 100% with you. I think that win is good. You can't have the letdown in this game, especially against the team that you're most likely trying to eliminate from finals
yeah,
contention with Subiaco coming up. Not this week, but next week, because this week there's state women's footy, which I'm
yeah,
thoroughly looking forward to because covering both the Sandful and the Waffle, I'm fascinated to see how this goes. I'm a little worried. I've seen the Sandful side put out there. And from what I've seen, this is the Waffle Girls are in for a fun game because this is a very good stacked Sandful side. The Waffle side, they're going to put it, they'll put their best forward. I think this will be a competitive game, but this is going to be a fun state game to watch. I cannot wait for that. And it starts at like 2:15 in the morning, so I'm probably going to have to watch it on delay, but you know me, I'm crazy. I will probably find a way to watch it probably on delay. So we'll jump to the last question. We're gonna have some fun. I want you to become a psychic here, sir. There's 6 rounds still left to play before finals. So looking at what we've seen and looking at the results still to come, who are the 4 teams that you think are gonna make finals this year?
in the women's still.
Yep.
Yep. I think at this stage it'll say as it is at the moment. So I think what did we have? We have Claremont, East Fremantle, West Perth, and South Fremantle. I think that will stay probably where it is. That the next few rounds will help shape it, but I think we're probably where we will be at the end of the season at this stage.
Yeah, the biggest thing will be, and I just wanted to pop ahead. I think the game that's going to make or break it is actually going to be in round 12 as Swan Districts
Yeah,
host South Fremantle at Steel Blue Oval. That's probably going to be that make or break it for that last spot in. If
sure.
Swans can win it, they have a chance to take over. If South win it, I think they have a chance to take over. So
Yeah,
I'm with you. Unfortunately, Swans is a little bit too hit or miss. They're one of those if they can get consistent, um, delivery to their forwards. They have a dangerous forward line. They kick goals. They're really good at marking the footy and usually are pretty accurate. Sometimes they have some days off. If they can't get supply, then it's a long day for them. So that'll definitely I'm gonna agree with you. I hate seeing it. I'd love to see Swan Districts because of that ability to knock off Claremont. I think would make the finals very intriguing to have them in the running, but we'll have to see. So I think I'm gonna go with you. I think it's gonna be Claremont, West Perth, East Perth, and South Fremantle in the four for me. So now we'll jump to some questions over the men's competition. And we'll start off, unfortunately, with East Fremantle. And for me, they have been less than impressive to start the season. I know they came in with a little bit of that negative cloud with the -4 due to the breach of the salary cap. Are they in trouble of not making the five? I know we're only 5 rounds into the season. I know I'm jumping the shark a little bit on this, pardon the pun. I wasn't trying to do it, but I did. Okay. Are they in trouble? Are they in trouble of not making the finals this year after winning a premiership?
Yeah, there is that possibility, but with the evenness of the competition, I probably would count one team out of it at the moment, and again, that would just be the Eagles, just because they still haven't got a very strong side. I think at this stage, any of the other 9 teams are pushing for a spot in the finals, and East Fremantle, yes, they had a -4 at the start, so if they didn't have that, they'd be sitting fourth place at the moment. They've got the second or the third, fourth best percentage as well, so they've got a very healthy percentage in there. They've got a lot of players out. So they've still got Lane Brokehurst, the Sandover medalist from a couple of years ago. He's come back from knee operations, all him playing the reserves. Feisha Mantle on the weekend, and he was a dominant player on the ground, as you would expect, a class above, a couple of classes above the WAFL reserves team. Both Marsh boys are out. They've got a number of players out, and I could only see them getting better throughout the season. The Swans really missed a massive opportunity to get one back off them in the last weekend's fixtures. They'll obviously rue that, could cost us a spot in the finals, but Feisha Mantle, they had to get points on the board. No team has gone through 4 rounds of fixtures in the WAFL and made finals without any premiership points on the board, or without being being premiership team, I should say. I don't think they're far away. I think the Sharks, you will find over the next few weeks, they'll be in the final. They'll be in the top 5 within a couple of weeks and be pushing for a top 3 spot, I think, by the end of the season.
Yeah, they're a strong side, but it's that -4 is going to hurt them a little bit. They're gonna have to
Could
do just a little bit extra just to get over. But I agree with you. I think they're too good a side. They've got a lot of their squad from last year back. Again, we're only 4 rounds in. There's still a lot of footy still to be played. We just don't know. But it's always interesting when you start the season a little bit less than what you did the previous year and how quickly some people can jump the gun. I had to ask. So and then
That's a
we
good question. Yeah,
we
you look at teams like the Swans and Claremont have both lost 2 games by under a kick. Could
Mhm,
easily be sitting 3-1, and
mhm,
yet and in third, second and third, and they've lost those games, so they're second and third last. So
mhm.
so not much between it, a win and a loss, and positions on the ladder, which is great. It's awesome.
Well, and then it's a great transition to my next question because I as a Swan supporter, but also as somebody that keeps track of the waffle with the wafflefootyfacts.com. Thoughts on the competitiveness of this season? Because as you said, we're 4 rounds in, and there's only a 2 game gap between first and bottom. That you have to say shows this waffle season could be a humdinger as if this continues as to play out as the year goes on.
Yeah, and I mentioned that it's the first time since 1992 that everyone had a win, or there's been no undefeated sides after the first 3 games. And the season 1992, I think there were 7 games. They played 21 games back then, and at the end of the season, the team that finished on top of the ladder had 14 wins. The team on the bottom of the ladder had 7. So there was not much in between the 8 teams that were in the league at that stage. And I think this season is shaping up to be an extremely close season. You've almost got elimination finals coming up already between Swans and Claremont this weekend. Both are sitting 1 and 3. Both have had heartbreak this season. A loss to either of those sides, and they're getting further and further back. So massive games coming up again this week over the next few weeks. But the league is really tight. It's really close. We haven't had a lot of massive results. As I said, there's been a couple there, but again, with the Eagles being probably the main team to cop their floggings. I think the Eastern Man or Claremont game was probably a bit of a one-off for the Tigers. I don't think they're going to get belted like that again for the season. But you just got to be switched on. Swans turned off for 5 minutes at the end of the game and lost. Other teams are doing that. Claremont sort of switched off in the last quarter the week before against Subi and nearly lost, and fortunately they held on for the Tigers' sake. So it's hard to play 4 quarters of footy because there's always swings and momentums. It's hard to be up for 20 weeks over a season. So, I think this season, the tightness, it's really good. You got 3 teams on 3-1. You got 3 teams on 2-2, and you got 4 teams. Well, Eastern Mantle obviously is also 2-2, but again, we know why they're not quite 2-2. And the other teams are all have won 1 and lost 3. So it's very even, very competitive. The crowds are even up this year as well. So some really good figures in the crowd numbers. If you take away a couple of the Eagles games where they've had less than 500, the crowds have been up. Swans, Perth and East Perth are averaging just under 3,000, around the 2,700 mark for their first 4 games, which are awesome figures. We haven't seen figures like that for a number of years in the WAFL. So those clubs, particularly the 2 Perth sides, have been down for a long time, haven't had success for 20 and 40 years. Their crowds up, which is great to see. The WAFL needs strong teams like Perth and East Perth to keep the numbers up, and let's hope they can stay competitive. I think the Royals will be right up the top in the end of the season, and hopefully the Demons can keep going on their trajectory upwards as well. So great season so far, Donnie. Let's hope when we look at it in another month's time, we're still talking about how close it is.
I sure hope so. Just because I think in the long run it keeps everybody's attention. Like, one of the worst things for me personally that I have in this is that when you can sit here and go, okay, this team's done, this team's done, this team's done. When that happens, it really takes a little bit out of the it takes the sting out of the season, because you know that a majority that 4 or 5 teams are just they're trying to get to their golfing vacation at the end of the year. They're not fighting for shots, where it's like, if you get to the end of the season and there's 5 teams trying to make finals, and out of 10, 8 of them are still have a chance to make it, that makes it that much more intriguing. There's only 2 teams that are kind of, I mean, they're mailing it in, and you hate saying it, but that might happen. So I absolutely love it. I think it'd be great. I want it to continue. I just don't want it to come down to some heart-stopping moments of kicks after the siren, because I hate seeing fans get absolutely just destroyed by those that. But sometimes it's the outcome of fantastic, great games of football. So
Yeah.
we'll get to it. We'll get to the predictions. As we kind of stated, unfortunately, there is no round 10 for the women because there's a state league game, as we kind of discussed. So we'll jump to round 11, which is their next game, which will be next week. We start off with, as we said, the eliminator, Subiaco v Swans. Is it head or heart? Who's going to on your tip on this one?
Oh, look, I don't tip against Swans. Swans will win, probably by 16 points.
I,
Poor
I'm
Subi, 3 goals behind.
stay on brand, right? Stay on brand.
That's exactly right.
I'm gonna tip Swans. I think their forward line, if they can get good service, I think are going to be very, very dangerous. They did beat them in the earlier game this season. I'm one of those. The second time is a little bit more difficult. I think Subi stays closer, but I think Swan's just a little bit too much firepower going forward. A very interesting matchup next is Claremont host South Fremantle. I'm going to tip the Tigers in this one. They're not going to have 2 bad games in a row. The only thing I'm going to keep an eye on is that I'm looking currently at the state team, and a good chunk of their best players are in this state team. My one worry with that is that an injury. That would be something that could derail with some of their elite players. If one injury happens, it could throw this team off. Claremont a little too good. I think Claremont wins this, but as a Claremont supporter, I'm crossing my fingers they get through this state game with no injury issues.
Yeah, well, Claremont, I think East Fremantle and West Perth make up pretty much 80% of the state squad for the girls' team. So there's 3
Eight
teams that
Claremont and 5 and 6 South and 6 East Fremantle.
Yeah. So I think for the Tigers, they're going to be, as you mentioned, they're going to be hurting from their loss last week. They're going to have 2 weeks to think about it. I'm a bit worried about South Fremantle for this game. I think the Tigers might win this quite well. Around the 5-6 goal mark, which is a pretty big win in the WAFL. Hopefully it doesn't happen. I hope the Bulldogs, put up a good show and why not? They've been a solid team for the season, but I think Claremont are going to be hurting too much. And state games, can derail teams if injuries happen in state games. I've seen it happen before in the men's league. It does happen. So hopefully there's no injuries. Of course, you don't want to see that in any level of football. But Claremont I think will be too good for the Dogs.
Yeah, it'll be quite interesting. And then a very intriguing one when it comes to the top four, as East Fremantle host West Perth in this one. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I think this is a toss of a coin. I think Eastern Man probably at the moment playing a little bit better than West Perth potentially. But there's four really great games with teams very close to each other on the ladder. So I think all these games can go either way. But I'm going to give this one to the Sharks.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you on this one. Unfortunately, West Perth it seems like the top two teams have given them the most issues, and the other teams they've been able to handle quite well. Unfortunately, I see that trend continuing. I like the Sharkies in this one, and then the battle at the bottom of the battle of the bottom of the ladder sees East Perth pay Peel. Can Peel get off the schneid, or does East Perth make it 3 wins in 4 games?
I think the Royals will be singing their song again. I think for this one, Donny, they're going to get used to it, which is good to see. So I think I think East Perth will just be too good for Peel. As I said, Peel are averaging probably 12 points a game over the season. It's not enough to beat anybody, even East Perth. So I think the Royals will salute their supporters with another win in this
Yeah,
one.
I'm with you on that one. I got the Royals winning this one. Unfortunately, Peel I just think this is one of those seasons you just want to chuck it in the bin and you can't wait for next year already. You're already starting to get ready for next year because this one unfortunately is the proverbial in the rubbish bin for sure. Let's jump back over to the men who are playing this week in some fascinating matchups in round six. We start off with a fun one with Subiaco host the Sharks. A fun one here. Can Subi get the win over the defending premiers? Who do you like in this one?
Again, like the girls or the women's league, I think there's 4 games here that can go either way again, and I expect some 4 really close games this week. Or having watched East Fremantle last week and the way they came home with a wet sail and a few more ins that they've got this week, I'm not 100% convinced on Subi, so I think the Sharks will make it 2 in a row and get over Subi in this one.
Yeah, I think East Fremantle has started off a little slow, but I think this is where they start to find their feet a little bit. I'm going to tip the Sharkies on this one. A fun one here between Peel and West Perth. I'm fascinated on this one. I'm going to tip Peel. I think they're starting to find their groove a lot. I like West Perth in this one, but Peel just a little bit too strong in this one, so I'm going to tip the Thunder.
Yeah, historically, West Perth have had it over Peel quite considerably. Peel's, I think, only beaten West Perth 11 times out of nearly 60 games. So historically, obviously, it doesn't really make much difference in a game. It's for new games, new teams, etc. I think Peel will get their 12th win against West Perth here. I think by 3 or 4 goals. I think Peel's team is looking good this week. Again, they've got a couple ins players coming back from the Dockers. So I think Peel will get over the line in this one.
Alrighty, a fun one. Surprisingly, more towards the bottom of the ladder, but again, this ladder is quite closer than a lot of people think. As Claremont take on your beloved Swans in this one, I I'm gonna this is hard for me because Claremont is one of those teams that normally I'm sitting here going they're a good bet to follow on. Swans keeps playing in close games. I'm fighting on this one. I'm gonna go with the upset. I'm gonna tip the Swans in this one. I don't like Claremont's mojo. They've not started off well. They've just been un-Claremont like, which is really weird to say. But I'm gonna tip the Swans in this one. I know it's a road game, but sometimes when a team starts off bad, you don't want to play a team that plays super competitive games because they can nip you. So I'm gonna tip Swans in this one.
Oh, Donny, this is a tough one for me. Swans don't like Claremont Oval. They're rubbish at Claremont Oval. Haven't won there for over 10 years. Won twice there since 2011. I'm expecting, well, based on results this year, this could be again another hard stopper going down to the wire. It's really hurting me to say this, but I think Claremont will just get over the line. Obviously, I'm hoping I'm totally 100% wrong and the Swannies get up and win. But I just think, I think that loss last week, to see the reaction of the boys at the end of the game, I think there's a lot of wind taken out of them, and obviously it could go both ways. It could really spur them on to get up over the Tigers this week. But the history of these close losses, these results that keep sort of happening, although there were a couple of close wins last year for Swans as well, but starting this season pretty much as a carbon copy to last season. Unfortunately, I think the Tigers will be just maybe a goal or two ahead at the end of the game. Unfortunately, I don't want to say.
It'll be a fascinating one for sure. Like I don't envy you, sir. I'm not looking forward to finding out the score on that one for sure. And then we'll
Well,
move on.
if we tell me messaging you, don't worry.
I can't wait. I will cross my fingers. If I get that tip right, I will. And what I find fascinating is you do what I do a lot of times with the AFL is I do what I call a no loss tip. Because if I
Yeah,
tip against my team and my team loses, I get the tip right. If I lose the tip, then my team wins.
that's right. Win-win.
It's a positive win either way. So
That's
and some people find that fascinatingly. If some people just can't do it, but I've found a great little in between little loophole on that one. So
yeah.
we'll jump over as South Fremantle host Perth. As we kind of said, Perth having a few of the injuries to some of their star recruits, and I think this is the worst possible team to come up to a very red hot South Fremantle. I like the Duggies in this one.
Yeah, the South Fremantle is probably the team that surprised me the most this year. I didn't think they would be bouncing back so quickly. The 3-1, sitting comfortably in the top three at the moment. They'll be too good for Perth. Unfortunately, Perth's injuries are going to start to hurt them, I think. So I think the Dogs by a few goals in this one, maybe 3 or 4 goals.
Definitely. And last but not least, a fun one as the East Perth Royals take on the West Coast Eagles in this one. Royals and Royals all the way. The Eagles, they got their win. I just don't see them getting a win in this one. The Royals just too good.
Yeah, East Perth by 8 to 10 goals. I think they're just too good. The Eagles again, they could surprise us like they did a couple of weeks ago against East Fremantle, but I highly doubt it. I think East Perth easily in this one.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Well, Rick, that is it. That is all the games tipped again. A fascinating round of footy for the men again as the women with their state competition. They won't get back for another week. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a lot of fun. I love talking WAFL footy. Like I said, it's been a fascinating start to the season. I'm crossing my fingers it stays that well. So I got to say, thank you again, Rick. It's always great sitting down talking with you. I mean, I have to get back on the website. It's been a while since I've actually been on it. How are things going with the website and any new things that people need to look forward to on wafootyfacts.com?
Yeah, so just WAFL footyfacts.net is
Oh,
the
.net. I
correct
always
URL.
forget. I'm
Get that
sorry.
right there, Tony.
I
That's why
gotta
you
write
haven't
it
been on it for a
down.
while. You keep going to the wrong spot. Uh, no, it's going well, mate. So yeah, I'm still getting a lot of people on there, which is really good. My socials are doing well and stuff like that. There's always new stuff getting added. If you do hit the website, said wafflefootyfacts.net. I do have a what's new section on my website, which goes through a number of things that I've added to the site. Some things are more obvious than others. Some things are little things that I've done, but I'm still continually adding player data. So probably since last time we spoke, there's more player data being added. One of the key nice little changes I've made to the site is starting to get date of births of players in there, and on a player profile, if I have date of birth available, you can see their birth date, their age of debut, and their age of their last game as well. So a couple of nice little things that I've added to the player profile page, and I'm up to around about 5,600 dates of birth out of 9,700 on my database. So I've still got quite a few players' dates of birth to get, which we'll get there in time, I'm sure. But that's a nice little addition to my player page. But plenty of other stuff, continuing with my previews, and you can see all the head-to-head stats and everything each week. So if they're any interested, your viewers out there interested in having a look at head-to-head matchups each week, that's always posted up on my website and easy to access from the homepage as well. So yeah, thanks for that, Donnie. Yeah, it's going well.
Well, and like I said, I remember I've checked out the site before. It is insane how detailed it is, and it's so much fun. You can get lost with all of the things that you can look up on there. It is a fantastic site. if you want to just go through the yesteryears of the waffle, I absolutely love it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for another episode of Donnie's Disposals, a waffle wraparound. Again, keep an eye out. More footy coverage still to come. We will take a week off from state leagues and jump back in as the Victorian Football League comes back into play, as I'm joined again by my faithful co-host, Brendan Rhodes. For the VFL, I know we're talking VFL in the waffle. Don't do that, coach. Don't do that at all. Nah, just kidding. It's a lot of fun. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's been so much fun to keep an eye on these state competitions. So many of them have scintillating football. It may not be the AFL, but you want to know what? It's damn good football. It is damn good football. I will say that. So that will do it for this episode. Thank you again for listening. If you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. Would love to see and hear more from the people that watch this. Till next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is another episode of Dice Dispose. We'll see you again very, very soon.